Hi, I'm Cameron, and I don't just read comics, I love them. On today's episode of Cameron Reads Comics, my friend Kyle and I read Justice League Origin by Geoff Johns and Jim Lee. This episode is released to coincide with our viewing of Zack Snyder's Justice League. If you want to hear my thoughts on that movie, go check out last week's episode. It's a collaboration with Worthless Film Podcast, and we go in almost 2 hours on Justice League by Zack Snyder, so go check that out. In this episode of Cameron Reads Comics, we read the New 52's Justice League number 1 through 6, and there are going to be full spoilers for those issues, so consider yourself warned. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram accounts, as well as clobber that like button and leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. In a world where inexperienced superheroes operate under a cloud of suspicion from the public, loner vigilante Batman has stumbled upon a dark evil that threatens to destroy the Earth as we know it. Now, faced with a threat far beyond anything he can handle on his own, the Dark Knight must trust an alien, a Scarlet Speedster, an accidental teenage hero, a space cop, an Amazon princess, and an undersea monarch. Will this combination of Superman, Flash, Cyborg, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman be able to put aside their differences and come together to save the world, or will they destroy each other first? Alrighty, and welcome, Kyle, back to the Cameron Reads Comics podcast. We are so glad to have you on. Kyle, this is actually a super important episode too, because Kyle and I watched the Zack Snyder Justice League cut together about 2-3 weeks ago. And so when I was like, ooh, I need a guest, obviously the Snyder cut or the Zack Snyder Justice League movie episode of Cameron Reads Comics was released last week, and I just thought that to tie that in together would be really great as the comic that it was based on. And so we read Justice League Origin, but big shout out to Kyle for being available to read this in a whirlwind. I gave him 2 days to read this, so thank you, Kyle, and welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Third time. Yeah. I'm honored.
You're basically a regular. So, Kyle, what do you think about the title? What did you think about this book?
Well, I thought it was very fast-paced. I will say we, of course, coming off watching the Snyder Cut, it was 4 hours.
Did a lot of that resonate? Okay, wait. Even before we get into what we read, how did the Snyder Cut resonate with, I guess, your posture towards the Justice League at all?
I guess when I was watching the Snyder Cut, all I could think of was the 2016? Is that when they came out?
2017.
2017. That Justice League and how much I didn't enjoy that movie. And then, although it was 4 hours and a lot of content to take in, and I think you and I can both agree it was a much better experience.
Yes.
And especially watching all at one time was tiring, but actually really exciting and rewarding at the end. I remember us talking about it after we watched it, and we were like, wow, we actually like that a lot better.
We liked it a lot. I think you and I, we were nervous because Kyle, I think we said it, but Kyle and I watched it together, and we did it not quite one sitting. It was the same evening, but it's we went and got pizza, and then we got
cinnamon rolls.
Then we got cinnamon rolls at intermission because it was 4 hours long, and then there were multiple bathroom breaks because it was 4 hours long, and so we we did a great job. We powered through. I got to his house at 7 p.m. and I was out of there by midnight because that was the movie we watched. So yeah. So you're saying you enjoyed the movie though, right?
Yeah, I definitely did. There were some parts that were quite slow, and I think we can agree unnecessary.
Literally slow motion.
Yeah, throughout the whole thing, it was only in slow motion. But anyway, yeah. And then reading this, actually, just today, I read the whole thing today. Mm-hmm. It's 6 issues?
6.
Yeah, 6 issues. It's super fast and super fast-paced, so I guess the pacing was just so different from the movie. Even though this is what it was based off of, Zack Snyder obviously was like, okay, we need to slow this way down, which I think actually was a very solid creative choice.
You thought he was incredible? Yeah, I think so too. I think if I had a critique on this book, it would be I just wish we had more time to get to know these characters. But now, okay, with that posture from the movie that we watched going into what we read, like, how did you like what we read?
Again, going back to being fast-paced, there were just so many panels where I was like, oh, I didn't really get that, or I didn't really understand, because it would just be this big part and then it would cut immediately to someone somewhere else, and with no explanation. It was just, here's this, here's this, here's this, they win. And I guess the pacing of that is kind of, I wouldn't say what ruined it, because I enjoyed many parts of it, and I enjoyed how all the characters interacted with each other, how it was much more like dark side centered.
Yeah.
And because he's amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's a great villain. So contextually, before we break down like a lot of the stuff that went down in the book, this is very much a product of a DC reboot, a notorious DC reboot, the New 52. How many of the New 52 titles had you read before this?
Well, not many. When I first started reading comics, it was kind of just after like the Rebirth launch, which I believe came right after the New 52.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because I think there's a large majority that, or at least a loud majority, that ended up disliking the New 52.
I just think they kind of ran out of steam with it.
Right. And so I guess starting during Rebirth, I found myself wanting to just read those titles and then maybe some of the classic titles.
Yeah.
And so I kind of stayed away from the New 52, because a lot of different podcasts and people who I talked to were like, stay away from it. There's not that many great things there.
Yeah.
But yeah, after reading this one, I can see that there had to have been some bright spots.
There were. Okay, like that's my thing, is one of my biggest critiques is there's a lot of trash talk that goes with the New 52, and I'm like, honestly, I can name, there's amazing storylines that are still being used, and I think still should be used from that arc. So, like, I'm just going to spout off some titles that were my favorite, and I want you to know if you've read them, because I think there's number one. I think the greatest New 52 story, or at least one of them, top 5 for me, is Aquaman.
Yes.
You read that?
That was one of your first recommendations to me.
I was like, this character is so cool, and this run, like, you don't need to know anything, and then the way they changed his arc changed the entire way I see the character. It was so good, and so I really like their characterization of Arthur Curry Aquaman. And we get that version of him in this story. I think actually, well, number one, the obvious choice too for a lot of fans is Scott Snyder's Batman. Well, so Court of Owls, City of Owls, Death of the Family. They did a very long run. They did obviously like a 52 issue run of Batman. Scott Snyder's run of Batman, amazing. Like changed everything. 0 Year, all that. Then. I'm like, I'm not losing steam. There was just 52 brand new titles launched. The Shazam reboot Origin,
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that story, which actually took place in, like, you know how some issues like will do. Also featured in this story is, you know, a 5-page Black Adam story or something. You know how that happens sometimes? That is... Shazam's reboot Origin took place in the background of these Justice League books, like in the actual issues. And so the Geoff Johns, Gary Frank reboot of Shazam was amazing. Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello and Cliff Chiang was amazing. Batman and Robin by Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason was amazing. Like, obviously, like, I don't think Superman was so good, but there's so many titles that people know and actually still recite that are really good that came out of the New 52. So I'm not so in love with this Justice League run, but it has been the foundation of multiple movies. We have so like a long form Geoff Johns Justice League run like this one was really good, and I think we can thank the New 52 for that. So I just wanted to declare my love to the New 52 because I think that is, everyone talks trash on it, and I don't think that is deserved.
This might be a silly question, but did this come out like after all the solo stories of all these characters?
It was all coming out simultaneously.
Okay.
So-
So we probably got an introduction to Aquaman, Green Lantern, Batman,
Well,
all at that time.
it's like subject to like those stories, and so like, you know, I think all the number ones came out. So let's say that all these individual heroes number ones had come out, you know, within the month before, and then 2 weeks later Justice League number one comes out. And the idea of the New 52 was that it was a reboot and that everyone had been a superhero for 5 years, and so nobody quite knows one another yet, and it was up to the creative teams that were on each book how much of their like that character's legacy had already happened. And so for this one, it was, you know, Batman had always been Batman. He's gone through all the Robins in 5 years, and
Right.
it's like, that's crazy. Green Lantern, Geoff Johns had already spent, you know, an extended length of time on that character, and so he's like, his origin's gonna stay the same because I've made it. This was also New 52 spins out of Flashpoint, which was Flash Rebirth, and then Flashpoint, where Barry goes to this new continuity, and so a lot of Barry Allen's recently changed origin stuff is still the same recently changed. And so, you know, it's up to the creative teams and how they wanted to take what pieces of those characters worked, because there's other stuff that had been like concrete in the origins but then got changed. So actually, which spins us greatly into this story, how did you feel about Cyborg's origin in this story? We can compare it to the movie, but as for right now, within the text and with the comic continuity that you know, how did you feel about his origin being in it?
So I guess in this origin, you'll explain it, but basically the mother box, which is a transportation device from Apocalypse to Earth, basically he absorbs it into himself and he becomes that computer.
Yeah.
Which ultimately, in my opinion, I think makes him so much more powerful than other origins where like his dad rebuilds him after an accident.
A car crash, yeah.
Yeah, after a car crash. And I think he would still be limited by just our own computer technology, which obviously is becoming even more advanced nowadays. But
and it's only going to get more advanced, yeah.
Right. But this supercomputer that we as humans can't comprehend and don't understand the technology from an extraterrestrial planet, I think is a much cooler origin for him, and ultimately just makes him more powerful and, in my opinion, more interesting. So I guess to answer your question, I liked his origin quite a bit.
Did you... I think I like this origin too. Would actually get with this character. This is also, I think, one of the flagship titles where Cyborg. I think this is the first one where he becomes a full-fledged member of the Justice League. So my question is, do you prefer him in the Justice League or do you prefer him in the Teen Titans?
I grew up more with the Teen Titans.
Great show,
but I would say I prefer him more on the Justice League because he always just had this maturity with him that I guess, in my opinion, and from what I've read and what I've seen, didn't really mix too well with like the little issues of the Teen Titans and their family issues and lack of family issues. And I guess I would just say, I prefer him as an adult, and I prefer him as a Justice League member.
Yeah, and especially like because this team is made up of like a bunch of the flagship supers, like, you know, in the Grant Morrison Justice League, it is Kyle Rayner Green Lantern, and it is Wally West. So those were sidekicks that became supers, you know, like became their flagship characters. In this one, I think he's the only window that we could possibly have into like a younger man's, you know, world, like look at, you know, the grown-ups. You know what I mean? These are the superheroes, and what am I doing here? My one thing, okay, so to answer my own questions that I gave you, number one, I think that I personally like him more on the Teen Titans.
Okay. We'll fight.
What did you say?
I said we'll fight.
Yeah. Oh, that's why you're here. But I was like, oh, you wanted to talk about the book? No. But my thing is, I just think that I get where Geoff Johns is coming from, and I think that he's a really great character who's so cool and maybe potentially underutilized on the Teen Titans. dealer's choice and however we want to feel about that. But I think that to just kind of make him the tech guy for the Justice League, I get it. He's a 21st century hero for like a technologically advancing world. And in this one, they kind of give him his credibility. But I think he could also have that on the Teen Titans. And, you know, I love this Justice League team, but I've also actually been reading, it's a little unfair, I've been reading the Scott Snyder Justice League stuff. Okay. And I like that team a lot more. And so
I will say it takes out the need for Batman to sit at his giant computer, and I guess that makes me kind of sad.
Yeah,
because I love moments where Batman's just looking at 50 screens in front of him and like pretending like he knows exactly what he's focusing on.
Exactly. I'm like the artist makes Batman smarter than he is. No, just kidding. Okay, so now bringing it back to Batman, he's the one who opened the story with us. And actually, I didn't realize, but like from the Whedon cut of the Justice League, I didn't realize that was pretty much the same exact opening. So the opening of the Justice League from Joss Whedon's, or at least the main scene that I remember, is a parademon flies into Earth and Batman's pretty much sulking around and he's trying to investigate that. We get exactly that in this story. And so how did you feel about Batman being the one kind of opening it up and then him just running into Green Lantern?
I like when I personally like when Batman's the center of like a storyline with the Justice League. Mm-hmm. And in this story, they really harp on the fact that he doesn't have actual like superpowers.
Yeah.
And I just love that because they just don't understand that he is so smart and he's so capable. Yeah. And obviously he's rich, which makes it a little easier.
My man.
But he brings so much to the table and so much more than just like a superpower. So for him to be like always in the shadows and always having the best interests for the Justice League at heart, I like when he's like the personal center of it and when he starts it out, and he's always just a good introduction to any story, really. It's Batman.
Yeah. There's few characters that are as accessible. Then going from there, we get a very specific dynamic between him and Green Lantern. How did you feel about the characterizations and the relationships that were going on within this story? Because I think they're very specific, and I don't know if I personally loved them, but how did you feel?
Well, Green Lantern's just a tool.
Yes, he is.
Put it simply, he's just a tool, and I like that Batman eventually put him in his place, and so their relationship butting heads pretty much the whole book, I guess, was something that gave the book like a personal touch, and like this worldly superhero that is supposed to be protecting Earth, his sector of the universe, which is Green Lantern. Mm-hmm. And he has still this like crippling personal issue of being just liked and being the center of attention, and Batman's basically just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why do you want that?
I found that scene to be so interesting, and like it again, like I said, it's very specific, and obviously it couldn't have happened between two characters, but that is like kind of a moment that I did not see coming that I just absolutely loved. Mm-hmm. I was so fascinated by it, and like, I don't know if Batman's superpower is relating to people on a personal level, which is like, you know, we saw that, and I liked that moment too, though. Like, don't get me wrong, but I really enjoyed that moment where he kind of gave Green Lantern, he's like, you and I are actually the only two normal people here.
Yeah.
I mean, and Barry's kind of normal, but like, he is super powered, and I get Green Lantern is super powered, but his power comes from his will. Mm-hmm. Barry's doesn't come from his will. It comes from his like super speed. You know what I mean? Barry has control in all situations. Green Lantern and Batman definitely do not. Mm-hmm. And so that was, I think that was a very smart writing choice of Geoff Johns really showing how well he understands these characters. How did you feel about them all coming together?
I mean, I unfortunately we keep harping on the fact that it just happened so fast.
It did. Well, it was 6 issues. It's like, okay, here's the big bad, here's the resolution, boom, boom, Super 7, you know?
I guess I'll give the thing I liked the least first, which was Wonder Woman's introduction. I haven't seen this version of Wonder Woman where in this Diana is totally seen as this like aggressor and always looking for a fight, and
Yeah.
that's kind of how the various U.S. agents and people see her, and that's not a Wonder Woman that I picture or envision or like seeing. Like she shows up and she's like, let's fight. Like
Yeah.
I like the more personal and personal
Like tender.
Wonder Woman. Yeah, giving that that feel to the book where I mean in this she's just so aggressive, and I guess that's cool, like more power to her.
Yeah.
But that's just not how I picture Wonder Woman. And she's obviously so powerful and so strong, but I never really see her as someone who's always seeking that out, but more of like a protector and a defender, and then I guess on the opposite end, I thought Aquaman's introduction was awesome.
That's, she's a tough character to land because, you have to be able to balance like the grace and tranquility that comes with her, but then also the fact that she has been raised to be a warrior.
Yeah.
And so bridging that gap, good luck to every writer that takes her on, because it's a challenge and it's very subject to her. But I agree that Aquaman has been the butt of every freaking Justice League joke in the entire world. And so then when Green Lantern says, what can you do? And then he shows them what he can do. I was like, hell yeah.
He summons the great white sharks to take out a bunch of the parademons, and it's this beautiful splash page.
I was like, I read it online or like digitally, like on DC Universe. And so I was like, oh, well, I don't know, but it was good and I liked it. The most important detail is that, and if, again, for the fans, go read Geoff Johns' Aquaman run, one of the penultimate DC runs in my opinion. And he does that exact same moment where there's a robbery on land and he just kind of stops it and they're like, what are you going to do? Like, and then they try and shoot him because he's Aquaman, and then he like bullets bounce off his chest because he's still super powered, and they're like, what? And he just gives them the look and he's pissed at them, and it's so good.
He's cool, man. Geoff Johns does a cool Aquaman.
He does a great Aquaman, and even he made fun of the yellow shirt. He's like, you think I would or orange shirt? He's like, you think I would have chosen orange for this? Like, if I had to say,
Hal Jordan said, take off the necklace.
Yeah. And actually, okay, wait. How did you like with the new video? How did you like the character designs?
The art, I think, was I guess I don't even know why I haven't even mentioned it. The art was, in my opinion, the shining moment of this book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was all about it. Jim Lee's the main artist, right? Yeah. No, he killed it on this book. I thought all the characters looked great. Yeah. Aquaman's design looked wonderful. I guess Superman kind of looked like a teenager.
Oh, yeah, looks younger.
Yeah.
He has longer hair. It's like, what?
Yeah, I always picture Superman for some reason being like massive and just like non-proportional, which is much different from this.
He's very proportional in this book.
and then Jim Lee draws the crap out of Batman.
Always.
He draws such a good Batman.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm in love with all these costumes. Like, actually, though, and this is my one complaint, it's the saddest thing, is that I think that all these, like, this is my favorite Aquaman costume ever, and it's the only time we ever see it, because in Geoff Johns' Aquaman run, he does not wear the necklace, he doesn't have the, I don't care about the sideburns, I might take those off, whatever, but I think the necklace is so freaking cool, and he has, like, a chain attached to his trident, and I was like, I really like the chain.
You like all the scales?
Yeah, scales for sure, always. I'm like, that makes sense. And like, they make the orange work. It's the cover to, I actually bought it because it's my favorite Aquaman look. It's the cover to Justice League #4, and it's just him in front of the waves. And I was like, he looks so freaking cool. How come we didn't? Because I'm like, yo, he like found that necklace under buried treasure in the sea, and it's Atlantean, and it's cool. And I'm like, how? Your costume is literally lame. I don't know. And that's just a personal preference on the Green Lantern costume. I'm just not in love with it, but. And then,
yeah, I mean, like for me, when I started reading comics, these were kind of just like the main and normal suits that I pictured.
Really?
Yeah. Just like the classic Justice League costumes. So, I mean, hitting that, and I don't know if I had seen pictures before or had seen this art before, but it really kind of hit home.
Yeah, it's
for me.
It's good, and I think when you're giving someone like a book like this, had you read this before this?
No.
Oh, really?
I did not know.
Well, great. Like I think this is just kind of a bread and butter comic you can give to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would you give this to, like, if someone said, "Hey, I don't know anything about Justice League, I want to learn"? Would you just give this to them?
Yes, I would. Although it's fast paced, again, going back to like them starting out with Batman, I think that's a really nice introduction. And then, honestly, I think just today, almost everyone knows at least Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Flash. I think the one person they might not know is Cyborg, which you get his origin in this book, which I think is perfect. So I guess I say I would.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. It wouldn't be my like, okay, so I don't know. It just depends. It's subject to the person you're loaning the comic to, but for the most part, this is an origin story. I don't know if this is my definitive Justice League origin story, because I think they're going for big and blockbuster, but I just don't think a lot of the beats landed with me, because I really didn't like how much they fought. I'm like, not that they need to get along, kumbaya, but I'm just like, how come the first thing we see is like Batman and Green Lantern just like not getting along, and then the beginning of the second issue is, okay, let's go fight Superman now. I'm like, what? And I get that they're trying to find out who the leader would be. I kind of really don't like that it became Green Lantern.
Oh, yeah, I didn't like that either, no.
I was like, I really, really, really appreciated the beat where Batman's like, because I agree with everything Batman said. I think Hal is smart, and I think if he kind of got his head out of his ass, he'd be a great leader. How come, where's the Superman who's filled with hope that people want to follow? You know what I mean? Because he is tender and wise and, wants the best for everyone. I'm like, okay. In this book, he was on Apocalypse and just being like murked and lobotomized or whatever by Darkseid. But I don't know. I just think it was a little rushed, and then at the very end, just the last beat was kind of like, what? Okay, the Superman just beat Darkseid kind of on his own.
To agree with your point, I like the Justice League, and I like, honestly, the DC universe where everyone's definitively like, Superman's at the top.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna beat him. He is the symbol that we can all strive to be as superheroes. Like I guess he has his maybe one flaw.
Yeah.
In life. And so I when I picture my Justice League, when I picture them, it's definitively no one's gonna beat Superman. No one's gonna test him. The only one who has any sort of idea to take him down would be Batman.
Yeah.
I would say, but I guess when I picture my Justice League, I want Superman at the top.
Yeah.
But then I also want him in the shadows asking Batman for advice.
Yeah, like always, I think very much a Tom Taylor take is Batman's favorite superhero is Superman, and Superman's favorite superhero is Batman, and they're best friends. But it's not like, again, it's not kumbaya. It's the only person Superman would trust to hold kryptonite is Batman. And, Batman obviously wouldn't have it any other way. He'd put the kryptonite in his hand. but he can't be the same kind of hero that Superman is. He can't kind of provide... They're
polar opposites.
He can't provide the hope, but he really respects Clark for Clark's ability to. And I'm like, I really am down with all that. So, yeah, and I think some of that was lost on this story, but I really liked the moments when Batman was also able to ground the team. When they're fighting Superman, he's like, we shouldn't be fighting right now.
Yeah.
He's like, guys, we need to stop. Like, Superman, like, how can we talk? Like, he said, I think we are all trying to fight the same thing, and so let's just solve this.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, in this origin, I don't know if there's like implications that Batman and Superman have crossed paths at this point. I don't know if they touched on that. For sure.
It's a weird. I don't think so.
Yeah, but it's also like inherently and naturally, there's a point where Batman and Green Lantern are talking. The team was kind of waiting for instructions. Superman had just been taken by Darkseid, and Batman and Green Lantern are talking. Green Green Lantern's like, what do we do? What do we do? And Batman's like, you go handle them. I'm going to get Superman.
Mm.
And how he like inherently was like, whatever I got to do, we need him.
Mm-hmm.
And to, again, like harp on our points of we like their relationship, which was lost in this story. I like that it at least mentioned and got to that point where he was like, you do that. My first priority is getting back Superman.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I believe in you guys to do this, and even the mythology. What am I trying to say? The methodology, and even the way he explained it to Green Lantern was, we're playing baseball right now.
Mm-hmm.
We need to play football. Like we need to be a team. Like it's not every time it's batter up, and that's not how we need to play this. And I was like, ooh, I just really like that because it's just.
Which, as a baseball player, I personally disagree with. However, I get the point that Geoff Johns is trying to make.
I'm like, dang, you heard it here first. Geoff Johns he's a football fan, not a baseball fan. Confirmed. So, I guess going into the villain and Darkseid as an entity, how did you feel about his characterization, and how did you feel about his introduction?
Personally, I'm a big fan of the Young Justice cartoon series, and he obviously plays a central role in that, even though he actually, in 3 seasons that we've seen, hasn't come to Earth to fight. And I guess in my experience with Darkseid, I like when we get a lot of planning and dialogue, and we get to see like how much he wants to like consume Earth and get like just destroy Earth basically. And in this, how he just kind of shows up, and that's about it. Yeah. I guess I'd say a lot of his characterization was kind of lost in that, and how he just kind of seemed like obviously the super powerful person, but I guess going back to when we would give it to someone, they'd be like, who the heck is this guy? Yeah, right. You know, like there really wasn't any introduction to him. He just showed up, shot beams out of his eyes, and it blew up a few of the Justice League. So
yeah, and this was always going to be like this story, and like Geoff Johns' Justice League run was always going to be like a slow burn, because eventually this leads to, you know, the epilogue in the story leads to an event called Trinity War, and then Trinity War leads to eventually the Darkseid War. Okay.
So they get there.
This
was a soft opening to Darkseid being powerful.
It was both, and I'm like, here's the way. Like, I like that he was the foe that brought them all together. Like, you know, if I could critique, and Zack Snyder, you know, he was trying to build a trilogy, and so Darkseid not being the main villain of Justice League is fine, and I actually really liked what they did with Steppenwolf. In the comic, though, I'm glad it was Darkseid, because you know, and I wish we had more of a reason for him, because he's like, I came for her, and that was really about as much as we saw. And I'm like, wait, what? And then I was like, it was unclear to me. And then we saw them fight him on a unified front, and like once they made the plan and once they went for it, like, because I think Wonder Woman is a better fighter than Superman, and so she could put up a tough fight on Darkseid. I just don't think she's as strong as Superman, and so like Clark being the one to do it all was great, but I'm not in love with that. But anyways, I liked Darkseid, and I like also kind of the suddenness. I think I liked him being the antagonist, but I don't know. And even everything he did was fine. I loved the Omega beams with Flash and who was it? Superman? Yes. Yeah. Because Flash
had to save him from getting hit by the first time.
Yeah.
And then the second time.
That was so cool. I'm like I just love the Omega beams, and now obviously, like, I'm just a huge Darkseid fan in general, because
you want to get into that, the Darkseid versus Thanos.
Shoot,
I think we need a mini lesson from you.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Putting you on the spot here.
It's not even like a lesson. It's just that I think Darkseid is the superior villain. So for comic, we talked about this in episode 1.
That's right, Mr. Miracle. Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes me real. Okay, long story short, I won't rant, because I think, you know, Thanos is a great villain too on his own. Like, go do his thing. But long story short, Jack Kirby came to DC Comics after a long stint in Marvel, where And DC was like, you can have whatever you want. And so pretty much Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby pretty much creates the fourth world, which is these characters as we know them. You know, that's Mr. Miracle, that's Highfather, that's Orion, Darkseid, everyone. He builds his own mythology within the DC universe. Darkseid being the grand antagonist of the universe. I'd argue he left Marvel, gave them all their heroes, and then came to DC and gave DC their greatest villain ever. Darkseid's pursuit has always been the anti-life equation so that he can, you know, get rid of all life or world domination, whatever it be. That's the Maltese Falcon of his pursuits. Eventually, very shortly after, I'd say 10 years after, Marvel, Jim Starlin creates Thanos, who is, you know, the very similar, like, just look at their body shapes. You know what I mean? Very similar, menacing villain, not in pursuit of the anti-life equation, in pursuit of the Infinity Gauntlet, so he can wield all the power in the universe. La da da. Now, go to now, where Darkseid, in my opinion, and I think it's pretty universally agreed among comic fans, is the superior villain, who I believe Thanos is kind of a ripoff of, like not even kind of, but I want to be nice. And I think Thanos is a great villain. I think Thanos has better solo stories than Darkseid does. But thanks to Jason Aaron and Donny Cates, go read those books.
Oh yeah, it's really good.
Like they're like, seriously, I don't think there's a better Darkseid story that stands up to Thanos Wins or even Thanos Rising by Jason Aaron. So, anyways, I just think that now after Infinity War and Endgame, if Darkseid ever makes an appearance, people are going to think of Thanos first, and they're going to compare Darkseid to Thanos, which should not be the case. Oh man, but that's just me, and I'm very passionate about that. But also, it's like, you know, more great comic content just gives us great comic content. So I'm okay with all of it, and I can have my, you know, the scenes that we had in Justice League were really satisfying. Oh my gosh, this also comes off the tail news. Did you hear that the New Gods movie has been canceled?
No.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I was looking forward to.
Well, now we can talk about Black Adam and look forward to that because I'm so freaking excited for that. There's a little bit of a tangent there, but yeah, no, I guess I like Darkseid in this book. How'd you like his costume?
Darkseid's costume?
Yeah, it's not his standard look.
I guess I didn't really notice.
Oh, well, that's good.
I apologize for that.
It's okay.
I don't really have an opinion on that.
He literally...
I thought he looked fine.
He usually has a dress on, and I'm going to pull it up for you.
A dress?
Yeah, it's like a purple dress that... Oh my gosh, there we go. It's on, if anyone's wondering, it's in my search bar. He's like actually...
Do you have like armor on?
Yeah, he has an armor on.
He look more like robotic.
He looks more like he has like armor on.
Yeah.
So, and he has the Omega symbol, which is pretty sick. Like, you know, he has this kind of look where...
I guess it makes sense since most of the time we see him, he's on Apocalypse just being comfortable at home. Where I guess he did get ready for some sort of battle when he came here. I
think that he also got a redesign in the New 52, and I like the look. But anyways. Okay, so now I got probably 3 more questions for you. Number 1, who in this story was your favorite character?
I'm gonna give it to Batman.
Really? Why?
For the reasons we've talked about before, and then to even go a little bit further, was he just seemed to be continuously the heart and soul of each issue. It starts out with him. Each conversation ends up going through him at some point. He is the one that goes and saves Superman and goes and gets him and brings him to the rest of the Justice League, and that couldn't have happened without him. He was the only one that really thought of it. Superman was taken, and kind of everyone else was like, all right, what do we do now?
No.
We got to do it ourselves. And he was like, no, we need him. And I think that's the smartest play. Anyone's first move should be, let's get Superman on our side. Yeah,
even I'm like, what am I going to wear today? Let's get Superman on our side. I think you're right too, and Batman is a character that if you are searching for someone who understands the situation you are in any depth, in any situation, he will be the person who understands and then procedurally understand what needs to happen next. And I think they nailed that in this story. So I think I agree with you, but I don't think he was my favorite character. I think my favorite character, it was a tie actually. I liked Aquaman and the Flash because Barry is a hard person for me to really admire because again, I really like Wally West, and I think Wally's my preferred Flash. But I think all the dynamic between Barry, he wasn't the jokester. Like Barry's not a funny guy, you know.
Yeah.
And in Zack Snyder's Justice League, he's funny, and they needed comedic relief. You know what I mean? It couldn't.
For
it
that
couldn't.
4 hours, they needed it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was great. But I think that the levity he brought was serious because Hal is out here making an ass of himself, and Barry's the one that he knows. You know what I mean?
Right,
And so Barry's just like, he's poking at Hal logically, critically thinking, and then, you know, he went into most of the situation really just trying to look for some resolve. You know what I mean? He tried to save Superman. He's like, here's the options of what we can do and what I can do with my power. And then Batman's like, okay, you sound like a cop. And he's like, oh yeah, I am a cop. And then Hal's like, Barry, you're giving up your secret identity. And Barry's like, you just called me Barry. So it's like, I liked the levity that he brought to use someone like Green Lantern, but it still felt true to the character. And even like the dynamic where at last Hal's like, oh, I need you to come help me. We're fighting Superman. He said, last time you and I teamed up, we like fought psycho gorillas, and you know, like clearly alluding to Gorilla Grodd, and like it was so funny. But I liked Barry, and I liked the way that he dodged the Omega beams, and that arc with Superman. I think when it comes to being a team player, he was great. And then for Aquaman, I really liked the integrity that was given to him. Like we talked about that a little bit earlier, but just his design and I also like that. I like that. I didn't like, but I did like when they were talking about who's going to be the team leader. And Aquaman's like, yeah, I'm going to be the leader. That's still in character. Hal is going to be the kind of guy who's like, I'm the leader. Like, and that's why he felt like he had to prove himself. And Batman's inherently like, yeah, okay, look no further. Whether or not I agree that Batman's the leader. But anyways.
So who's your Justice League leader?
Superman.
Okay.
Superman
cool.
always.
Cool.
Superman, but with Batman whispering in his ear.
Yes.
That's really my Justice League. Because, you know, it's kind of like, and you know, I'm not trying to step on any toes. You know how if your parents are fighting or something, or like, you know, if you're having a hard time and you don't know what's going to happen and your parents just kind of lie to you and they say, it's going to be okay. We're going to be fine. That's Superman. You know what I mean? But that parent is Superman. But when the parents are alone and you're not there, it's like, okay, what are we going to do to solve this? I think that's, you know what I mean? That's Batman and Superman working together. But Superman is the front. Like, how's this? Like, you know, it also didn't sit well with me. And I think this is kind of why Batman would never show up at like a freaking outdoor award ceremony for him in his honor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, I understand that was a footnote that needed to happen. It was the superheroes being engaged. That's fine. That's not who he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be the rest of them there, and then he's off still staring at Gotham.
Yeah, he's literally looking at his 50 computer screens. Yeah. Like, and
he's figuring out the next thing.
He's like, okay, what's Riddler up to now? You know what I mean? And that's how I feel about that. And so, you know, there's some tonal things that I don't think I quite agreed with, but like I think they tried to fit a lot into these 6 issues.
Yeah.
Like that first issue was a whirlwind. Okay, so my next one for you would be, what is your favorite moment?
I would say it's a tie. It's a tie between, actually, what you kind of brought up just a little bit was Barry dodging the Omega beams, how he phases through all the parademons.
Yeah.
And it basically sets, for anyone who doesn't know, the Omega beams can kind of like lock. Yeah. He can lock target.
That basically is the coolest thing ever, too.
He shoots them out of his eyes, and it locks on target.
They're not a singular, like, vertical or horizontal beam. Like, they move.
Yeah. They bounce off stuff. They're completely going around, and he's like, I got to get it off my back. I got to get it off of him. And then, I don't know if it's someone tells him it's on us, and we got to get it off of us. And he's like, okay. And he phases through these parademons, and it locks onto them, and it blows up a bunch of them.
Yeah, because it
And
was sick.
that part's so smart, and I love when all the Flashes can go through things, and they figure that out.
It was so cool.
Yeah,
I agree.
I love that part. And then again, going back to when Aquaman shows up, and Hal Jordan's like, "What can you do?" And it's literally 2 or 3 straight pages of Aquaman kicking ass just right in front of him while they're doing nothing. He summons the sea, sharks kill a bunch of parademons, and then he fights one-on-one and just absolutely destroys it. And then it leaves the rest of Justice League basically speechless.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess going back to like how he's kind of been the joke and the butt of the Justice League, I love how, I guess, in our lifetime and these recent years, how he's really gotten this extra leg to him, and he's got this extra power to him.
An extra fin, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was terrible.
And I mean, obviously now with Jason Momoa being Aquaman, how can you get any cooler than having that guy play that character?
Yeah, he's so freaking cool. And like, I don't know, just the first time I ever thought the orange costume could work was in the Aquaman movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's so cool. Like that movie, I think too, is up there, top 3 DC movies, off the top of my head, top 3 DC movies in the universe. And so I agree. Okay, I think my next question, or I didn't say my favorite moment. I think my favorite moment is similar to what you're talking about, but, and again, I just wish we had more time with this character. I actually really wish it would have opened up with the writer, dude. His name's David something. That it was, I think, right after that where he kind of saw that moment with Flash and he saw them save, and he said, "I woke up today and I didn't think I'd see it tomorrow." And then it's the narration of the Justice League currently like with their plan fighting Justice League, like working as a team or fighting Darkseid as a team. It was very cool. And then he says, and then I saw it. It was tomorrow. And it was the Justice League, like, in a full-page splash panel. It was, like, so cool. And I was like, then him being the one to name them the Justice League. And actually, the cover of the book that he wrote was the original Starro the Conqueror, the first. I think it's the first Brave and the Bold issue where they were fighting together. And I was like, that's exactly what I needed, you know? So seeing that was really cool. I really liked that moment. I think it's always something extra special, and I think it's a tool that not enough writers use. Is when you see like a civilian's perspective on these larger than life characters. Like, I don't know if you've ever read Marvels.
Not. No.
That is, oh my gosh, it's a a civilian's perspective. He's a photographer walking through pretty much all these major Marvel events, and just kind of like as the superheroes are coming out, it's just crazy. It's a really cool look at the legacy of those characters, but I like the way that was utilized in this. So I think that was my favorite moment. But I really, really, really wish that he didn't just start in like issue 3. I wish that.
Yeah, that was kind of funny how that seemed like something that it would have started page 1.
Yeah, I'm like, like literally open up the book with him. But I don't know. I'm not part of the process. So so what do I know? Okay, last question, Kyle. What would you rate this story out of 10?
I'm gonna be a little harsh and give it a 5.5.
I am giving it a 6. So,
there you go.
And I feel bad because the last 2 Geoff Johns books I've read, I've not given him, I think, up more than a 7.
What was the other one?
Batman 3 Jokers. And I want the audience to know that I really like Geoff Johns. Like, he's a great writer. Like, read his Aquaman stuff. Yeah. JSA, his Green Lantern run is obviously unparalleled. I love his Shazam story. Like, I like Geoff Johns. I just think that I think this kind of falls into one of those spells of an event book. You know what I mean? Where they're trying to make it something bigger than it actually is. And they kind of pumped up more of the marketing than the story. I'm like, maybe if this was 8 issues, I think it could really have some whoa moments, but it was a whirlwind.
He was writing multiple books at the time too, right?
Yeah, so
You're not gonna hit them all.
I appreciate that. You know what I mean? Because let me tell you, he's hitting Aquaman right now, and he's doing. Or when it was being written, he was killing it, and this ties into one of the best Aquaman stories too, which is I think so for the way it was collected. Because I was buying these in the hardcovers when they're coming out, just like that's what we read from. There's one more. There's I think a second issue, and then the second volume, and the third volume is Throne of Atlantis. And so it's an Aquaman Justice League tie-in, and that's just, everything. It's all the coolness of the Orm, Ocean Master stuff, and he becomes a really cool villain too, so it works. And then he does another great event in this series, Forever Evil. I don't know if you ever read that, but it's really great. And so to be able to see that happen within this text, maybe this is in the book, but I actually do like this Justice League run.
Well, when Geoff Johns listens to this,
he does,
which he will.
Hi Geoff, how's the fam?
Just know that we may not have loved this, but we love you. And we've loved a lot of things that you've written, and was a very central part to me getting into comics and staying in comics.
Oh, absolutely. Geoff, we are huge fans. And Jim Lee, too. Personally, I didn't mention the artwork. I am not in love with this Jim Lee artwork. I thought, I don't know, there's just a lot of lines all the time. And
sure.
I'm like, sometimes they weren't. But, obviously, Jim Lee, there's a list that our podcast we really like, Geek History Lesson, did a top 5 Batman artist episode, and they put Jim Lee at number 1, and I think I have to agree with Jim Lee being the best Batman artist. And so I recognize in these guys too, like at the time this was being released, Jim Lee, I think, is the hardest worker at DC Comics because he does so many variants, he does so many interiors, and then on top of that, he's overseeing all these other creative projects. Not solely, I understand, but to be the flagship face of that organization, like all the power to you. And so
you can show he just loves creating art. Where he's like literally one of the top dogs, if not the top dog.
Yeah.
And he's still just sticking to his roots and writing things for different covers, and I'm sure it helps sell more books too.
Yeah, if his name's on it, it sells. And so, not my favorite book, but also it's not my least favorite book either. I've read a lot worse from other creators, and so plenty worse, but this was good. And so, not amazing. I recommend it. How's this? I give it a 6, but I do think it's necessary reading. If you're a Justice League DC fan, you just want to hear a different take on all of them getting together, go check this out.
You recommended this to me like 3 years ago, but I never read it.
Until now. So the recommendation stood, and now here we are. I got him to read it, guys, and that's what good friends do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty, Kyle. Well, thank you so much for being on the pod. For my fans, please go follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Cameron Reads Comics. Make sure to smash that subscribe and like button on YouTube. And please, please, please leave me a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. We will see you guys later.